most of those guys committed suicide. Many or most of those guys committed suicide because
Mhm.
at a certain point, there is a humanity of of the fighter, of the soldier, and there is a reckoning as you age to reflect on, was what I did right? Was it noble? And where am I getting these sources from? But if it wasn't right, then that additional conflict, not just gore, and offensive action, but the nobility of purpose, if that is lost, that
Mhm.
erodes a man, I think, faster than anything that in the moment.
Welcome to the Reality Therapy Podcast, where the truth will set you free.
Welcome to the Reality Therapy Podcast. We have a great panel today to talk about veterans' mental health, so I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Start with Jake.
Jake Freeman, longtime listener. I'm here in Montana, licensed as a marriage and family therapist and general contractor, coming out of the Marine Corps. And Paul.
Hey, I'm Paul Gowin, joining you from Japan. I run a consulting firm called High Performance Solutions. Mustang Marine. Met Jake over in North Carolina, and then we reconnected in Afghanistan. And yeah, I work with companies to refine performance while making sure they're taking care of their people, and emphasizing leadership development is personal development.
Well, I guess that leaves me. Hi, I'm Dr. Edward Perrin. I'm a psychologist in the great state of Ohio. I was in the Army, but my main focus is in treating Vietnam era veterans. It's a passion of mine, and gosh darn it, I mostly from I don't know what else to say. Mostly just I'm very passionate about treating veterans, and I'm hopefully going to be speaking from that capacity.
Mhm.
Cool. So while we wait on Alex, who wants to take the lead getting us kicked off? I'll say, what is different? Y'all are, Jake and Dr. Perrin, y'all are licensed mental health professionals. What is different when it comes to veterans' mental health compared to just the general population?
Would you like to go first?
I always want to go first. I no, it's uh my experience is it's the extremes that veterans have very often gone to. The Department of Defense, just the dot mil community is odd versus just the general experience that civilians have. Uh, Rarely anybody you meet has signed their name on the line, which is dotted to everything up to and including death as part of your service. And there's really nothing you can do to get out of it honorably unless you just go through it honorably. Um, Leaving that for all of its potential negatives, but then leaving the fraternity, the structure, the purpose, the mission, and coming into the chaos of the civilian world is sometimes a mind fuck. And some people don't realize how much they've appreciated it until it's gone. Um, there's strange uh, prejudices from the civilian side towards military side, like that. I remember when I got out, we had nonstop studied asymmetrical warfare, which they call it's the art of learning to eat soup with a knife. And what the civilian world tried to tell me was, oh, you don't actually know how to lead or do anything unless somebody's like telling you how to do it, bot as you go, which is so completely absurd. It doesn't reflect our reality at all. And I think that's why a lot of civilians go off. I'm sorry, a lot of military vets go into entrepreneurship because I would say by and large, the American military at least is really quite good at teaching core leadership traits that the civilian world completely lacks in. And it's so lacking that a lot of us don't even want to be involved in it in the civilian realm. Ed?
Oh, yeah, I really just want to piggyback on that because a lot of people think that most of the trauma comes from combat or military related stress. And it does. I don't want to minimize that. Of course it does. But a lot of times the problem comes in the transition back. Speaking on behalf of the Vietnam era veterans compared to the OEF, OIF, OND vets, now we have dedicated clinics for the first 5 years after discharge. That's new. Like that came from recognizing that there's a very acute need within those first 5 years. Kind of to the point of entrepreneurship, Vietnam vets at best, it would be like, good luck. Here's a book on small business management. Don't come to us unless you're about ready to kill yourself. So there really wasn't a lot of support in that transition back, and a lot of civilians don't quite understand the struggle. The thing that I would like to add, though, is that what separates the typical military population from the civilian population is there's a higher rate of these high obsessive traits. Like these are very highly capable, like high speed, like self-motivated people. They can do anything. Like you point them in a direction, you tell them accomplish this goal, they will do it. So when they come to therapy, they're reflecting that. They're saying, what more do I need to do? What more do I need to do? What more do I need to do? And most therapists, that's their training. Oh, try this or use this worksheet or add this to your repertoire, as opposed to looking at that's not your problem. That's actually very well developed. The other part is less developed. The taking a break, the relaxing, the not obsessive part, where your typical civilian employee might need a fire lit under their butt to do things, behavioral activation. That's not the most typical problem that military populations see.
Alex, you're not recording again. It's saying there's still a storage issue. I don't know. Sorry. Yeah. Thank you for coming on. We'll have to schedule something else. Do you have a laptop? Gotcha. For sure. Thank you.
Yeah. How weird was that? Well,
I think just to build on that from the non-ist side, because I don't have an ist or a behind my name yet. Just finished a graduate program in organization development, a field that was founded by veterans, and predominantly Mustang veterans were some of the biggest influencers in the development of social psychology and organization development. And one of the common things that I ran into from faculty and classmates was explaining to me how different the corporate world is from the military. And I've had that like kind of, what would it be? Like not mansplained, like civilian-splained to me several times. So I just finally started saying like, oh, tell me more. Tell me more. And they just explained to me how, you have to have initiative and you have to be able to be a self-starter and all the, tell me more. And you can't just always follow orders and everything. Tell me more. And then at the end, I finally just say, well, out of this conversation, who's done both? Who can actually speak from a place of experience of having been in the corporate world and having been in combat, or not even combat, just in the military? Well, I'm aware. Oh, you're a vet. No. Okay. You're a spouse of a veteran. No. You're a family member, brother, sister, mom, dad, Grammy, Grampy. No. Okay. So where are you getting your information from? YouTube? Hollywood? And that's what it was just this promotion of this stigma. And I just said, let's just speak from experience then. Like, if you're telling me how different things are, but you haven't actually experienced it, you haven't researched it, you don't know anybody, just refrain from promoting a stereotype because of something that you watched from Hollywood. That's probably going to be more beneficial to our conversation. I don't think I was quite that eloquent then. I was a little bit more heated. But that's what I found is just pushing against the stigma creates just this additional burden of, I'm here and I want to contribute, but I'm not able to figure out how to, even with Jake's reference to asymmetrical warfare, I'm not quite able to figure out how to get over this obstacle of your paradigm of me. I don't understand how to navigate that.
Paul, I reflect on a conversation you and I had years ago. I mean, 2018, 2019, I think, about the difference in paradigm between, the mission men and me, mission first, then the men, and then me as a afterthought, or,
Yeah.
horse saddle man. How nothing out here in the civilian realm is as crucial, or life saving, life destroying as things that would happen in the, in our case, the Marine Corps, under deployment, where you had to get things done or people could die. Like, there was life and limb. And so decoupling from that mentally in the civilian world, where, as you say, Ryan, or maybe it was Ed, where sometimes you gotta be able to chillax and realize it doesn't really matter that much if we get XYZ done. It's just bottom line. It's just numbers on a paper. Nobody's dying here from this.
Yeah, you can take a sick day. You won't be arrested.
Right. It's okay to have a no call, no show. It's just a point with HR.
Yeah.
But I think there's a there's this fictitious love
Magical.
fest of our service, because some of the situations we encountered in a combat zone, which you wouldn't really know it on Camp Leatherneck, was the absolute level of careerism. There was not this noble mission men and me. I remember a major in the section that I was working with, and I think she had the best of intentions. And she says, "Lieutenant, you just need to do what it takes to get a combat fit rep so you can keep going on with your career." And I said, I'm not here for my career. I signed up to do something a little bit larger than that. But it was not common. It was so focused on careerism and manipulating the battlefield at the expense of the junior ranks, life, limb, eyesight, concussions, to advance their promotion. It was completely self-interested at the highest levels.
Yeah.
So I think that it's not that different than the self-interested aspects within the civilian place that we see. I think at the small unit level, I think at that fire team, that squad, maybe up to platoon, maybe up to company level, you might have had that nobility of purpose. But where I was serving at the highest headquarters of 2 provinces, it was absolutely self-interested by the majority of field grades and senior enlisted that I came across. And I hate saying that. I hate saying that as I say it.
Well, it's unfortunate, and I even think that the different branches, I don't even say the branches, even the difference between like active, guard, and reserves, you're going to see different levels of politics where people are playing games beyond, I think, that calling or that service. But I think most of the people who I work with, most of the people, if they're coming into my consultation room, they're probably not playing the political game. They're not coming wondering like whose coattails can I follow, when can I stab them in the back, et cetera, et cetera. They're applying that same level of intensity to something that doesn't have that same sense of purpose. Like they're maybe helping cigarette salesmen buy their third mansion or something. Like it's not like a calling to them. And sometimes that really rubs against it because they still have that like sense of purpose. Like I'm still going to give 110%. I'm still going to be motivated. But why? Like I feel hollow and I'm putting a lot of effort for a life that's not very meaningful to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of the addiction comes in, where the cognitive dissonance of I'm working so hard at this versus this is really stupid. And I think that's why we drink, like literally to calm down the rage, the discontent. And that's, when I jumped into drinking, it was largely that. It was like this, like I'm working for the world's first $1 trillion company or Amazon. But like, what's it for? Like, what does it matter? Like, what are we doing here? Ultimately, that's one of the reasons why I cashed in my Bezos bucks and came out and bought property in Montana. So that's what we had been talking about for a long time. So I was like,
Mhm.
well, shit, I'm not getting any younger. Let's just go buy it. So we did. And here we are building.
But I don't want to get stuck in a chicken or egg situation here, but like the kind of person who is drawn to service, the kind of person who is drawn to the military lifestyle, they are motivated by values. They are motivated by a purpose or something that's very intrinsically rewarding to them. So like it is very hard for them to do a soul crushing job. Can they? Yes, the military prepares us for soul crushing anything. But
Yeah.
that is something that I think really provides a vitality. And if you're really disconnected from that sense of purpose, you're disconnected from that sense of vitality. I don't know if that made
So
any
And
sense, but
it
does to
totally
me.
does, and that's where I lost a lot of faith in the Marine Corps, in CENTCOM in the United States, and then because my personal identity was so wrapped up in being a Marine, um, I in seeing behind the curtain and seeing those just absolute focus on careerism. It wasn't nobility of purpose. It wasn't to uh, promote the Afghani people to have greater freedom and democracy within their country. Um, it was disgusting. And so then coming back and just completely losing myself to whiskey and a large pizza every night to just try and get myself to feel better. It was disastrous. And until I really went through to remap what is the meaning for me, who am I, and more centered on who do I want to become than retrospective of this is what I did. And that's what ended up giving me some at least somewhat stable ground to stand on.
I don't mean to take advantage of your guys' vulnerability here, but would you mind sharing a little bit more about like the relational part of that? Because some of the things that I see the most of people who struggle with addiction, especially within that critical, like I just entered the civilian world. I do find a lot of that is interpersonal. It's hard for them to really feel understood, or they didn't feel like they could express themselves to somebody who could really hear or understand them. But I'm hearing you guys talking about how much of it was personal. I'm curious, how much of it do you think was interpersonal?
As in,
At the
do
time or afterwards?
Oh, I guess when you were, I guess when you were in pain.
we miss the clowns, but not the circus. Um,
That
I
makes
have,
sense.
yeah, I've reached out to a lot more Marines, like Alex. He and I were in
Mhm.
2-8 together, 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines. I reached out to him just kind of on a whim. But then again, I
Which I
wanted to
think
have.
is like super adaptive. That's those are the things that I look out for. Like, who are you reaching out to in those moments?
Well, you'll cringe at this. I didn't start reaching out until I had something to offer, as in not hey, click on this link 9.99, but it was reaching out to some of the boys in the old units saying,
Mhm.
hey, I'm now a licensed psychotherapist. Ask me for more tips. Like, if you need anything, let me know. I kind
Mhm.
of know how to navigate this thing now. But before that, it was exceedingly difficult. And Paul knows this about me. It's exceedingly difficult. If I don't have a good answer that will benefit you, I don't reach out to you with whatever my struggles are. And Paul gets mad at me about that every week. But I think that's part of a hallmark of the
Mhm.
persona who does well within the military. It's like, yeah, I know I need some help here, but I'm not going to burden you by just like trust fall crying back into you. I'm going to
Yeah.
have something to offer up.
But you're making me think of in the VA. There's a job. It's actually a paid job. It's called the peer support specialist, and it's not a
Mhm.
licensed position. It's not. You don't need a particular degree or study in it, but they pay people to come in and essentially do that. Like I was really eating shit for the first couple of years after I went into civilian life. Now I'm here making sure you guys don't repeat my mistakes. And, you know, these peer
Yeah.
support specialists, they'll go to veterans' homes. They'll like break down their front door and like throw them into a shower, hose them off because they haven't bathed in a couple of days, and say, we're
Yeah.
going out and we're socializing with people. But
Does
like
it work?
it is essentially that what took me out, what got me out of the hole was helping other people come out of the hole.
Right.
Yeah.
I see that a lot, and I think it's a very valuable thing for veterans to reach out and say, let me help my brothers and my sisters who might be struggling with what I'm struggling with.
I think
Yeah,
that
and I
one of the
yeah, go ahead, Paul.
key shifts within the history of warfare is how fast you can move people in and out of the combat zone. And this pivoted during Vietnam, because at the very beginning of Vietnam, you took a boat. And boats used to be the super fast track in and out of combat. But getting to Vietnam was, a week or two. And I saw this interview with a Vietnam veteran who said, like, we are the pivot point for having it the hardest, because all generations of warriors previously had time to have what was originally group therapy, talking through, what did we just do? What did we just see? What are your dreams for when you get back? This future orientation. What's the first burger you're going to have? What about old Mary Jane? What are you going to do when you get back? What are we going to do? How are we going to keep in touch? And in Vietnam was the pivot point of being able to move individuals, not in a unit sense, in and out of the combat zone. That was definitely my experience. And there was such a lack of accountability that we ended up leaving a guy at the armory after we turned in all our rifles. Like, everybody got back on the bus and nobody was in command. And we left, and I finally was like looking around for this gunny that I met, and I was like, hey, hold on, I think we left somebody. Like, there was absolutely no cohesion, completely self-interested. And I think that that's exacerbated a situation that we didn't quite understand how to bring people back from combat, but we had something that was at least working. And then we decided to forego that for efficiency or the health of the individual, and put them on a plane and get them swifter in or out of the combat zone. And I think that's been a travesty.
Or we forgot the purpose or the role that camaraderie served, because a lot of people think that the majority of veterans coming back with PTSD are the 11 Bravos, the infantry, the tip of the spear people, but they're not. Those guys see really terrible things, but they come back with other people who've seen those same terrible things, and they get to talk about it. They get to process it together. They get to kind of co-metabolize the experience. But then we have things like, what's coming to mind is like the unmanned aerial vehicle pilots. They're essentially two-man teams. Sometimes here in the they're in Virginia, and they're dropping bombs, they're blowing up, they're killing people, and then 4:00, 4:30, time to clock out and go home.
Time to
And
go home for the day.
they walk in their front door, and their wife goes, "How was work today, honey?" They don't know how to
Yeah, we took
communicate.
out an Al Qaeda terror cell today, and I can't talk to you about it.
Well, they wouldn't know how. Like even if I told you, you couldn't comprehend the bizarre thing that I'm feeling right now. Versus if they were surrounded by a dozen or more other people who just went through the same thing, they could be like, "Yeah, man, I get it."
I Paul and I, both come from an OD life, and so it's like the McKenzieization, is that how we say it, of warfare, where unfortunately the curse of the modern age is that everything is an interchangeable part. But the reality of things is, no, there are things that are special. There are relationships that are special. There are events that can't be replicated. And so trying to make everything interchangeable, like our drone strike dudes, it's almost, lack of better words, less holy than rounds down range. For an infantry dude in the Marine Corps or Army. And we don't know what that's gonna do to these young guys and girls.
Oh, we're seeing it for the first time. It ain't pretty.
No,
What are you
no.
seeing?
Well, it looks a lot like moral injury. It's not the typical PTSD symptoms with the the enhanced startle reflex, but they start feel really degrading, and you're seeing a lot of the emotional aspects that we see with PTSD. We see some of the dissociation, some of the numbing. It's actually very difficult, but a lot of it comes from not really having anybody who can understand the difficulty. Like it's one, like I kind of what he's saying. It's like 1 to 2 degrees separation from like you shoot a guy, you at least go back and go like, I saw his face. You press a button from thousands of miles away. It's a different emotion, and it's hard to kind of metabolize that or really process it.
Right.
Are we setting ourselves up for like an ender game situation where we're just going to be teaching people that this is a video game simulation that you're playing
We
in
already
order
are.
to,
Do you know
yeah,
that some of these are used with PS5 and PlayStation controllers because it's
yeah,
cheaper than spending millions of dollars to
yeah,
build a new
yeah,
controller?
I saw that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
But I
Gives
I
me
I wanna
goosebumps. God,
No, Steve, please go ahead.
no, I'm just saying it gives me goosebumps. Um, it's the warfare thing, the loss, the tragedy of it, is so difficult to explain. The what the fuck aspect when you come out of it. Uh, why? What are we doing? Like, why are we doing? And so, ma- I don't know that it's a good thing to remove it, which is a very old industry, ritual, if you will, but removing it so many different degrees
Mhm.
from normalcy. It's like almost like a lab grown psychopathy that we might be growing within our society.
Well, have you guys heard of the doorman's fallacy?
I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
think
yeah.
so.
I'll explain it for any audience members,
Yeah.
but
Thank you.
yeah, the doorman's fallacy is essentially, you have this, 5-star hotel, like it serves kings, queens, diplomats, and someone from a place like McKinsey comes by and says, "Hey, you're spending X amount of dollars on this doorman. I could save you that per year if we install an automatic door that just has a
Yeah.
sensor. People can come and go, and you get this overall after a certain amount of years, you'll have saved this much money." So they go and they do that. But what ends up happening is people stopped booking the hotel. The quality went down, and they lost tons of money because people didn't want to go to that hotel. It turns out the doorman did a lot more than just open doors for people. It was a human touch. They got to recognize the faces that came to the hotel a lot. They helped them with the baggage. They were warm and pointed them to where they could get breakfast. All of these things that if you just look at the bottom dollar, you're not going to be able to accurately qualify or even quantify the impact it can have. And I think
Yeah.
this is what you're talking about. Like we're almost creating a doorman's fallacy. We're forgetting the reason some of these things have been in place. Warfighting has been going on since the beginning of human evolution. Like we know these things. This has been written since time immemorial. Uh, Napoleon writes about it. Caesar writes about it. Like these are very important things for the troops. I don't know.
I
I feel like
don't
I'm going on a tangent.
know. That's a great explanation. I love it. I maybe it was you that posted it the other day on Twitter. Uh, but we oh man, we're gonna my mind just go lots of different places, guys. Uh, I wonder if the reason why so many young people don't want to join anymore, uh, is because I think Paul and I's generation, and I don't know when you were in, Doc, but Paul and I's generation, we've talked pretty openly with patriotism on why we don't recommend it. It's not because it is so evil, damaging, or destructive, which in many ways it is. It's because our national leadership, our body politic, are not serious about it. They're not serious. Like if we were sent to a war for important things that mattered with the desire or the will to finish,
Mhm.
what we had done to start, that's another
Afghanistan.
story.
Sorry,
Right,
I had something in my throat.
Yeah.
right.
Tickle.
There was
Sorry, continue.
well, a lot of great men have choked on Afghanistan throughout history, but it's like there's no will. I realized when I was over there the
Yeah.
second time that it was essentially an ATM for the contractor companies. That was the purpose of
Yeah.
Afghanistan and Iraq, to enrich. I mean, I hate to say it, but enrich the Halliburton crowd, like, Dick Cheney. But
When I got to Leatherneck and I saw the Harley Davidson on the pallet next to the exchange, that you could go ahead and put the money down on the Harley while you're in combat, I'm just like, what in the hell? What
are
in the
we doing?
hell am I doing? Why am I here? What is going on?
I
It didn't
want to
make
jump in. I think
sense.
a second ago, Dr. Perrin, you talked about like that moral guilt. I think you were talking about, and I could be misremembering or misunderstanding history, but I feel like in a World War II veteran, that you're literally fighting Hitler. Uncle Sam is right. I know they're
Mhm.
right. There's no question in my mind, and
Mhm.
there's a lot more moral ambiguity. And it sounds like, possibly some of the symptoms you're coming home with have to do with, I don't know if everything we were doing there was the right decision.
So, Vietnam is a very unique and interesting example in contrast to World War II because they were the children of these people who they got to come back, and they threw parades for this very clear-cut battle of good versus evil, and good won. Let us celebrate the good guys coming back. Uh, a lot of the people in Vietnam really weren't aware of what the general population were being exposed to because it was the first really televised war. So a lot of the war crimes and atrocities from the perspective, well, I don't want to say it's completely objective because even the people who were filming it and broadcasting on a television may have had, they wanted to create a statement about it. But some of the people, especially after the very first year, they come back from their first deployment, they had their chest held high because they felt that they did what their parents did. They thought it was a clear-cut battle between good versus evil. And they came home and they found out that the entire country was being shown that it wasn't quite a clear-cut battle of good versus evil. In fact, maybe some of the troops might have been doing some bad things that deserve ridicule or name calling. And so they were actually surprised because they volunteered. They served for a lot of that same purpose, that like, I'm going to do my duty. I'm going to protect the world. I'm going to do what my parents did, and I'm going to, beat the bad guys. So it
Yeah.
really was a lot of that curtain really wasn't dropped until they came back to the civilian world.
Wow.
I feel like I'm losing my point here, but I think that moral component was huge, and even the ones that did have a hard time and wanted to talk about it and say, hey, what I went through was really tough. Their parents would say, shut up, I Love Lucy is on. Like, we don't want to hear about it. And this made people kind of hide their military service. Sometimes for 50 years.
Yeah.
Some Vietnam vets who I work with still believe that everyone's going to call them a baby killer and that what they did was evil and terrible. And I have to tell them, like, no, people will buy you breakfast. We are in the thank you for your service era. They will shake your hand. No, they can't know. They can't know what I did over there, or they can't know that
Yeah,
I
it's deep.
served. They can't even know that I have that badge.
Right.
I
And
hope I answered your question.
Yeah.
going into the moral injury aspect, when the My Lai massacre was used as a case study for how
Mhm.
to stand up against the
Still is.
system and the obligation as an officer that
Yeah.
you don't always obey the orders given to you. Uh, I followed up on that a little bit, and most of those guys committed suicide. Many or most of those guys committed suicide because
Mhm.
at a certain point, there is a humanity of the fighter, of the soldier, and there is a reckoning as you age to reflect on, was what I did right? Was it noble? And where am I getting these sources from? But if it wasn't right, then that additional conflict, not just gore and offensive action, But the nobility of purpose, if that is lost, that
Mhm.
erodes a man, I think, faster than anything that in the moment.
But it's supposed to, like, that the ones that collected ears and was just like, oh, it's great, you could let
Yeah.
out your aggression on women and children, like, that's a
Right.
different conversation. Like, those are
Right. Right.
a lot of the people who came back and said, I did my civic duty, but I really feel awful about some of the things that I've done. That is actually
Exactly.
the normal that is actually the normal
Right.
response
Right. Yeah. There wasn't a
to
lot of people collecting ears.
yeah, well, those aren't the ones that are coming home and killing themselves, unless it's, of course, maybe reputational damage because it got out that they collected ears and nobody will hire
Huh.
them. But a lot of times it's this idea of I don't want people to think of me as if I'm one of those people, that I'm
Right.
one of those Vietnam veterans, or that I'm one of the baby whatever the picture was.
The
And some
stigma.
of them
Yep.
had, and I've heard very extreme situations and where people were forced to shoot women and children. It's not unlike our more recent conflicts. The enemy knows that we're human. They will strap explosives to women and children to make us do things that are against our moral code or our value system, so that we're compromised, so that we're less effective at being warfighters. So,
Yeah.
like, some of these people come back and they get spit on and they call baby killers, and it's kind of accurate, but it's not because they're, you know, antisocial or psychopathic. It's because
Right. Right.
I did it to save someone's life. I feel really bad about it, but you can't understand it, so I'm gonna maybe suffer or develop symptoms.
Withdraw.
Yeah,
Develop addictive tendencies.
and
anything.
Yeah.
nor can it be explained because political lines are drawn so harshly now.
Mhm.
Um, I've seen. I was when I was in grad school, uh, they in for this marriage and family therapy thing. There was one day where they always talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, that kind of thing. But in this case, this young woman just said, "I think all people who serve in the military are malignant narcissists." Now, it's one thing for me to defend, like, "Hey, what the hell are you talking about? That's ridiculous." I'm looking at this professor over here who's just nodding. And I'm like, "Oh, okay. All right. All right." Because I was already in enough trouble all the time with these people. But I was like, "All right, time, date, place. This is what happened," because that's going to come up and haunt you. But there's this bizarre, almost cartoonish, caricatured uh, aspect that a lot of people have about people who do serve. Either they're stupid, which is absurd. I mean, education levels within the military, and or just intelligence and success after the fact, or that they're just morally broken because they just want to go in and hurt people, which is the
Yeah,
opposite.
I have 3 degrees, and the Air Force would still maybe go, maybe. Right?
Right,
Yeah, very educated.
right, right, and that's very difficult to get the run of the mill civilian type, typically pretty posh, pretty pampered in this modern day America. Very difficult to get them to understand. So we don't try.
Yeah.
Well, I think there are a lot of stereotypes. I mean, there are the positive stereotype that we're harder workers than everybody, because we are. There's truth to some stereotypes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But, there's also the everyone has PTSD, and, oh, I don't want to hire that guy. What if he, like, loses it at the copy machine? And
Or tries to take over.
that's, like, statistically so unlikely to happen that it is it's offensive that could impact someone's maybe job prospects or possibilities of getting hired. But I do think it's really tough that a lot of veterans have to kind of navigate these stereotypes or what other people might think service is from that whole spectrum. And I want to include even the positive stereotypes, because there are a lot of veterans who really duck the thank you for your service. Like the, oh,
Mhm.
please, like they're like, don't, well, one, maybe they're not very proud of their service, but two, that it's like, I don't want the spotlight. It was just a job. I was just doing, like, get away. Like,
Yeah. Leave me alone.
Well,
there are a
I
lot
was
of
doing my duty.
stereotypes that we feel like we have to manage. Sorry, didn't mean to talk over you.
No, we're all highest testosterone men. We're always talking over each other.
Oh, we're just so passionate.
shoot. Paul, I think maybe it was you that was had mentioned earlier about uh, yes, whatever the military service was, it did impact, it did affect, but that cannot be our current identity. The current identity has to be built on purpose, passion, mission, goals now and into the future. I find that the guys who do the worst are the ones. Ed, you said thank you for your service. It's more like thank me for my service. And their entire personality, even if they. And the funniest thing, even if they didn't like being in the service, well, now it's their whole personality, and they've got the flat top and the aviator sunglasses and
Yeah.
all the memorabilia. I don't I my wife bought a cat the other day, and the woman there had a Marine Corps something sweater, and I was like,
Won't even wear
"Oh,
my PT shirt out in public.
dude, I don't even have a Marine Corps anything. Like I have one black shirt that my son got me like 2 4th of Julys ago, and that's it. Like I don't have a veteran. I have a green hat a Marine Corps buddy made that says COVID-19 veteran, because that's funny. It looks like a veteran hat, because that's hilarious. But I don't like if you're a veteran listening to this, you've got to look, what is the future state? Who are you next? Who are you now? Yes, that was a thing, but what are we doing next, dude? Do that?
Mhm.
Well, I think
Well,
that's the space that I saw that might overlap between civilian therapy and military therapy that doesn't seem to be that different. If you are completely living your life, attempting to move forward while looking in the rearview mirror, you're going to crash into something. And so by identifying what is the direction that you're going, what does it take to grow into, to develop those skills to go in the direction that you want to grow, I don't think that it's that different, neuropsychologically, between military and civilian. I think that the brain works the same. But we attempt to differentiate it and say, well, it's special for veterans. I don't know if it is. There's a clustering of behaviors, there's a clustering of experience, but in terms of how the brain works, I don't think that it's that different. Correct me if I'm wrong, because there's a bunch of 10-pound brains on the call here.
there's one thing different, and it's not the brain, it's the access to the Veterans Affairs, the Veterans Administration medical system. Like like you can get treatment for free or based off of your service connection disability. So when they come to a VA mental health treatment for a PTSD or a moral injury or any the whole spectrum of mental health issues, uh, you are doing it under the VA standard, and the military likes dress right dressed. They care more about reliability than maybe effectiveness. I don't want to say that VA treatment is ineffective, but they care about reliability. If you go to the VA in any VA hospital anywhere in the United States, you will likely be offered prolonged exposure therapy for PTSD, cognitive processing therapy for PTSD, or be put on a wait list to one of the many specialty PTSD clinics in the United States, either one that's going to be next available or one that is specially designed for the trauma that you have.
Okay.
It's not bespoke to the individual. It is hit with a broad net. How can we hit the most people? There's not a lot of choice. Civilians have a lot more choice with where they can go for treatment. They have a lot more choice for the modality and the treatment being bespoke or focused on what their specific issue is.
Now,
More
I've
choice and
noticed.
less access.
Well, more choice. Well, I mean, we can get into a other soapbox about affordability, but I think that so like the VA also has something called community care if the wait list is over 30 days or if you are over 40 miles away from the nearest VA hospital.
Yeah.
The TRICARE insurance or whatever, the VA will pay for the whatever community therapy that you can get. But those conditions are so rare, and that is what affords veterans choice, and that is what I really want to champion, is that this one-size-fits-all approach doesn't always help for veterans, or they go back to the VA over and over again, and they get the same treatment over and over again, and by the time they're on their third course of CPT, they could teach it. They're not getting better. That's not the kind of help that they need. That is
Yeah.
when I think that we need to open that community care option, where we need to say, let's open the options for what treatments are available. Civilians may not have access to that entry level, that basic, this is what everybody gets. They can go directly to what maybe they think is best for them, or they're gonna maybe they have a higher chance of getting the wrong one. But I don't know. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm missing my point here. Um,
No, it's a great point. I think Paul and I both had the experience where, oh, well, there went that chair. I swore off my the VA, like, I think twice.
mhm.
Once in
Yeah.
2015, 16, and then again in 2019, because I went in and, like, literally I went in and some person, some dude I had never met before, wearing a dress, said, "Well, I looked at your record. I don't think this is PTSD. I think you have bipolar 2. Here's some, uh, God, I wish I remembered the drug. Take this." Horrifying. Like,
Yeah.
within 2 days, I dumped it down the toilet, because it's like, who does that? Now that I'm in the mental health field, I would expect to get beaten with a rubber hose if I did that. And so and I had that happen, similarly twice, where some person I had never met took a quick glance at my record and then said something absurd. Um, and
At the
veterans
VA.
just going, oh yeah, at the VA.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
veterans just quit going. Now, another Marine Corps friend, he was like, "Hey, dude, Trump's community access or whatever care thing that he pushed through in his first administration, that's really changed some things. Give it another try." So I gave it another try, and and now that I'm in the mental health field as a provider, I need to know kind of how you've got, Ed, how to navigate that system, because my focus is veterans and Leos
Mhm.
and mercenaries and things like this. I've got to know
Oh,
what they're doing.
advocate with me. Increase
Yeah,
the word is community care. The term, like, it is the buzzword within the VA system.
yeah,
Increase access to community care, increase access to veteran choice.
yeah,
That those are my bullet points, those are my sound bites that I want to give. Because I don't want to sound like I'm completely crapping on the VA. There's a double-edged sword to it. Like, it is in many ways the best healthcare system in the world. So if those who are listening are hearing our complaints about it, like, that should give you a sense of how bad mental health treatment is in some other systems. But
Yeah.
the VA has a double-edged sword. It's often a training system, unfortunately, to save money, because they're paid for by tax. But it behooves them to save money. The VA offers higher rates of preventative care than corrective care. So if you're looking for preventative care, nutrition, chiropractic, pain management, things like that, the VA, they are spot on. While civilian hospitals, they make all of their money from corrective healthcare, not preventative healthcare. They're not incentivized to save money the way the VA
I've
is.
I've got to say, I need
Unfortunately,
to find
the
the
VA's
VA
corrective
hospital.
care is also cheap. Sorry.
Sorry, I've got to find the VA hospital that you've had this experience with.
Yeah.
Because across 3 different states, Montana, Arizona, and Maryland,
Mm-hmm.
there was a consistent, terrible experience.
yeah,
I was able to function by learning the system and talking to other veterans to engineer things to get to community care,
Mm-hmm.
usually. But I remember going in for an appointment in the Phoenix VA where I had a buddy had a medication conflict and he died in his sleep. But I was
I'm
terrified of
familiar
that
with
hospital.
the Phoenix VA. They are actually they are currently still, I think, in bad water for killing people over a
Yeah,
waitlist fiasco.
it's terrible.
Yeah.
And so I
Sorry, I
I
didn't
go
mean to
in.
interrupt you, but I'm like,
N-
yeah, this
No,
tracks
no,
if it's Phoenix.
it's an infamous organization.
Hmm.
yeah.
Not to mention, just to try and find parking is a traumatic event for a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
With how they
Yeah,
have
I
things
don't
set
even
up.
think the campus is in the same location. Some, like, you have to drive to other locations, and if you have
It's
multiple appointments, you have to drive to those multiple locations.
it's completely overwhelmed for the number of veterans and the size of the campus, and there's some serious issues. And I remember going in because I had delayed going to this VA because this is where my buddy died. after we had talked him in to going and getting inpatient care again, because it worked okay, and he had a relapse, we had an intervention and got him back in, and he died in his sleep. Medication conflict is what they told us. So I go in, and the lady asked me, "How are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, fine." And this like, "No, I need to tell the truth." And I'm like, "I'm terrible. My anxiety is pegged. I'm having a hell of a time." And they go through the standard questionnaire of, how are you doing? How are you sleeping? Yada, yada, yada. Have you ever had any suicidal ideations? Well, yes. Oh, red flag. Have you ever made any plans? Oh, red flag. So if I'm
Hey, let's
honest,
stop talking about what you want to talk about, and let's fill out some of these forms about
Right.
your suicidal
Right.
ideation. Am I right? Am I right?
It completely derailed it. I'm like, I'm in physical pain for this. I don't need this mental health thing. I've got that figured out. Like, I need this other access here.
I hope the VA watches this, because what you're saying is, sorry.
And I go into, that was the nurse. And so I can't be trusted to go back out to the waiting room. So I'm left unattended in her office while she goes and gets the doctor to escort me to the doctor's office, because I can't be trusted by myself. Okay, got it. And my name is Gowin. It looks like Gowin, but it's Gowin. And so I go talk to the doc. "Hey, how you doing there, Mr. Gowin? My name is Mr. Gowin. Like, it's a pleasure to meet you. It's important to me. Please pronounce my name properly." And to your point, Ed, like, this was not the top of the rung. This was not even, I think it would be a stretch for this doctor to have made the bottom rung. And so she's mispronouncing my name. "I see that you have these mental health concerns, Mr. Gowin." And I'm like, "The mental health is not part of my issues. Please pronounce my name properly. Like, I can tell you're not even listening to me. Please pronounce my name properly. That's fine. I'm here for this other thing." "Well, Mr. Gowin, we need to have an intervention." I'm like, "Look, pronounce my name properly. You're not even listening to me. Like, the thing that the patient is asking for the most is just to have some basic respect here." And so at that point, she's like, "Well, you're overreacting. I'm about to call security and have you admitted."
Yeah.
And I was getting ready to go to the same psych ward that had killed my buddy. So, like, and that's kind of the extreme case from my tri-state extravaganza with the VA. But it sounds like you've got a great experience. I had to figure out all of those ways to quickly get out of the inside the VA campus system and get out into community care as fast as possible for my
I
own
don't
health
get
and
my
safety.
treatment from the VA.
Your
I want to be
community
very
care.
clear about that. I do not get my treatment. I pay a cash out of pocket for a therapist that I choose, who I think is great and is helping me with the issues that I want to work on. And the VA does not offer that. And I think that's what you were getting at. In 2017, I was there when Dress Right Dress and Bean Counters in Washington said that we need to really double down on the zero suicide thing. It became a 30-page suicide assessment. And that flag, if it's, "Hey, have you had any suicidal ideation?" I don't know a lot of veterans who say no to that, honestly. Like, even if it's passive, like, who hasn't at some point thought about it? We deal with
Right.
death as a part of our
Right.
career.
Yeah.
Well, who cares what you want to talk about today? We now have to go through this 30-page assessment. Well, I don't want to talk about my suicide. I want to talk about why I'm here today.
I've got
This
some
is
knee
for the
pain.
attorney. My attorney says that I have to do this, or else, or my supervisor. Oh, my supervisor. It's not therapeutic. It's not helpful,
No.
or it's not addressing the needs that veterans come for. And I
Yeah.
think it needs a change. Now, we fought that. We pushed back, and they listened to us. They cut it down to 11 pages.
Oh.
But
Oh.
I think,
They
to
got
your
rid of the
point, like,
doorman.
you probably had an agenda and they didn't listen to it.
Well,
No.
guys, one of the big fears that veterans talk about amongst each other is something semi-related to it. It's a cousin of red flag laws, where I was trying to get into the VA, just a couple of years ago, and some lady calls, some Indian gal, I didn't know who she was, and she just, "Hey, this is so and so from the VA." I'm like, "Okay, hi," and she just starts peppering me with questions, kind of the rudeness that Paul just talked about. And I was like, "Hey, lady, look, I can't talk to you right now. Blah blah blah. I'm working." And she says, "Sir, you're having a psychotic break. I'm calling your sheriff right now." I'm like, "Whoa, don't get Leo, don't get uniformed officers showing up to a psychotic veteran's house, because they show up with guns drawn." This is
Mhm.
how
Yeah.
this is a nightmare, or a reoccurring nightmare of veterans getting murdered essentially by uniforms, because somebody says, "Oh, this guy's a dangerous veteran. He's a combat vet." And so this is why most veterans are like, "Hey, red flag laws." No, you may think they sound good,
Mhm.
but they're murder bots. Like, you can't do that to us. So no, that's one of the big reasons why I quit communing with the VA, because of morons
Well,
like
Yeah.
what
the tricky part is that the VA system is they're very often training hospitals, so a lot of these people are not licensed themselves. They're under supervision, but that is also by design. It trains a new generation of clinician, and you don't have to pay them as much. So you
Right.
give them these standard operating procedures, and it is kind of
And they do it.
unemotional. So like we can say to those veterans who may be watching that a therapist's responsibility to intervene for suicidal behavior is if there's plan and intent. And
Mhm.
that is an
Right.
acute plan and an acute intent. And,
Right.
and
Right.
and we want people to know that we will intervene if there is acute plan and intent, because we want to keep you alive. Like we also want you to trust that we'll do that so that you can be honest with us. But in training and situations, a lot of people haven't really developed a lot of clinical judgment. So they,
Yeah.
especially if it is very attorney led, CYA, cover your butt. Um, they're not they might be going, oh, we're going to hospitalize to be safe, when there's not really a lot of evidence that there is acute risk. Now, at least this person told you that they were going to call the police. I have seen somebody who did not quite develop enough of this clinical judgment and contacted the police without informing the veteran. So
Oh,
this was
wow.
while they were in session, mind you. So like the police officers just knocked on this veteran's door, and that's how he learned that police were coming to get him. And he had plans to go home that day. Suffice to say that he barreled through those 3 police officers, and he had to be taken down by 2 at the bottom of the stairs, almost getting out the front door, and he was
Yeah.
charged for that. Who do you think
Right.
is wrong in this situation? The veteran who didn't wanna be arrested, or the clinician who might have been a little bit more on the side of caution?
Yeah.
I I kind of put it on the therapist who didn't intervene with
Well, and
acute
I'm
risk of
really
harm.
concerned with the training that Jake faced in his
Mhm.
program, and he was sharing that with me, and a high degree of overlap for just using positional authority as a professor to disproportionately give voice to the room, which all sounds really nice, to give the voice to the previously oppressed voices. It's to promote an agenda, and it's to cherry pick and to control the narrative and control the conversation. It definitely shanghaied my graduate experience. Uh, we're not licensed therapists. We're not on a track to go into licensed therapy. We're a unique aspect of the consulting realm, but we're not getting ready to be an IST like y'all. And so I was very concerned with some of the horror stories that Jake was telling me, and I'm just like, look, man, do you want the degree? If so, you need to shut up. This is not the time for you to let your voice be heard, because they will crush you, and then you'll never be able to hang your shingle and be able to make that difference. But I'm very concerned if I was to go back in to ask the VA for mental health care, that I'm going to be getting one of Jake's classmates. And it's just like, nope, 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 nope. I will be better on my own from any number of resources than have anything from the indoctrination that you received. I'll pass.
Mhm. Hence my soundbite: increase access to community care, increase access to
But
veteran
I
choice.
don't know if that solves it, because the generation of therapists being indoctrinated right now, they're not being trained. They're being indoctrinated. And so I don't know if community care would provide anything other than a lower bar of access to anybody that's qualified into the community care
It allows them to walk away. because
Yep.
unfortunately in the VA system, so in the VA, we cannot deny you care, but we can kick you out of and make you go to another hospital. So like you will always get treatment in the VA. So like if you go in and you don't like your therapist, they're going to give you another therapist in the VA. If you don't like that therapist, they're going to give you another therapist in the VA. So if the issue is VA treatment because the VA says you're doing cognitive processing therapy and you don't want cognitive processing therapy, you can go through every therapist in the clinic. They're all going to offer cognitive processing therapy. Eventually they're going to kick you out and you have to drive to another hospital. But this,
not
you can
community
go,
care.
you can, if you go into community care and you get one of these maybe indoctrinated clinicians who doesn't understand that veteran is a minority. In fact, it's a smaller minority than a lot of these oppressed groups that they may be indoctrinated to protect.
How
You
dare you
can
say that,
leave.
sir?
You can leave and then find another therapist, one who might be more attuned to your issue or more aligned with the goal that you're trying to work on. That's my argument.
Are you finding that veterans are aware of that choice? That they will be, it's not going to sick
No.
call.
No,
So
veterans
here's the
veterans
therapist that
follow
I'm
orders.
assigned.
We follow
That was
orders.
definitely my
If they tell
experience.
us, we follow. We don't question.
Yeah.
And,
That was definitely my
then
experience
therefore
with
we're
some of the
not getting at
therapists.
informed consent.
Yeah. I had a
We're
hell of
not
a
gonna
time with several therapists because I didn't even realize that I could put in a request that I didn't like this modality, that I didn't like this person's approach. I'm like, this is what the VA gave me. I need to be thankful for what I was given.
Mhm.
Let me see if I can make the best of this situation.
Yeah,
Right.
unfortunately.
So
The-
I'm going to tell you what I think I've learned today. From the very beginning, since before we started recording, I could tell that you guys had your own language and your own culture, and somebody would say something that I didn't understand, and everybody would be nodding. And I keep hearing what reiterated. I have these experiences in this world that I lived in that nobody on this side can understand. Like, you can't understand me, and no matter how well I explain it, I can't get you to understand. And what happened over there overseas, it sucked. The job sucked, but it had a high degree of meaning and purpose. And the jobs over here are kind of cushy in comparison. But yeah, I don't know what the meaning and purpose is behind what I'm doing. A lot of people drown these things out with alcohol and drugs, and it's hard to get a solution once you've crossed that threshold. So where I want to go now is like, what's the answer? What's the solution? And I want to start by what could get the three of you to go get your care at the VA?
Well, I want to correct one thing that you were saying. It's that we don't know that we have options sometimes. And that includes our career choice. So like if we're used to the hurry up and wait, do your job, just do as you're told, soldiers follow orders mentality, we don't know that we can pursue a career that is valuable to us or meaningful to us. So even if you've done something traumatic or you've experienced trauma or you come back from it, very often our pain and our values, they're two sides of the same coin. If you have objectively fired into a crowd with children or women to say so that a helicopter could take off or so that a bomb wouldn't go off and kill more people, you can dedicate your life to toys for children or helping victims of community violence. Therefore your actions, your behavior, your career, your philanthropy is aligned with that pain point, and you feel a sense of purpose with what you're doing. But people don't realize that that's an option, that's a choice, that they can even say, this is what I want to work on, this is what I want to start developing, or this is the pursuit, this is the value underneath the pursuit that I want to go on. And I hope that answered your question.
I love
too.
that answer. I love it that it didn't have anything to do with therapy. It's this meaningful life outside of that office.
As sometimes therapy is just helping them understand that there are options, that they can try them out, and if they don't like it, they can leave, and if they do like it, they can double down on it and try it more. But that there is a proverbial drawing board. If that's I think the best use of therapy with some veterans. They don't know there is a proverbial drawing board.
Paul?
I don't even know how to follow up with that because the Ryan's big question was what would it take to get me back in the VA? It's a bit more complex because I'm overseas in Japan. I'm still trying to figure out what is that process, because it's not easily accessible. The different emails that are listed on the websites are not being answered. So I'm navigating that process right now. I do really appreciate what Ed was saying around the restoration of agency, or if if an individual has never really had that aspect of being taught that they have agency, then therapy is a likely a good place for that. So I really appreciate what you're saying there with that, Ed, because it took me several iterations of not just therapy, but also employment and also relationships to understand, like, I don't have to participate in this, and that's okay. I'm not quitting. I'm not letting somebody down. And it's not
I won't get
completely
arrested.
self-interested. Right. I'm not gonna,
I
I'm not gonna be
laugh,
considered
but people
AWOL.
who may not be veterans, you need to understand that if we didn't do our job, we would have been arrested.
Yeah. So I just really appreciate that, and I hope that there are other therapists out there that are keeping that focus on agency without agenda. Because as I in and out of VA community care, and then out of my own dime, the amount of agenda setting, revolving door therapists and psychologists that I've seen, it's to initiate, perpetuate, stimulate a problem as a business model. And then there's no way out of that therapy room where you have a person function with higher agency. So I really appreciate what this conversation is showing. Like, you can take agency, you can restore that aspect of your life through choice. And there's people that are out there that can help you figure that out without an agenda, without their agenda.
I appreciate that little piece that you just added, the agency not agenda piece, because I think that's what would that's what would take me back to the VA. If I showed up and they said, how would you like to use your therapy, as opposed to which of these
Yes.
manuals would you like me to go through, I
Yep.
would probably go back to the VA. I would try the VA again.
And I will say that the best, absolute best therapist, I think she might have been a psychologist, Tiffany, out of the Maryland VA, the absolute best. But flash to bang, for us to work together was an 8-month process of me vetting her before I could fully open up and trust. Like, you're the head of this clinic, a specialty triage clinic, so you normally don't see people. That's fine. I'm not going to open up to you to have to open up to somebody else again. So if I'm going to open up to you, yeah, that was powerful. And she
months.
absolutely,
The VA wants 12 weeks. The VA expects 12 weeks, and then we got to get a new veteran in here. Yeah,
it was insane. But her part of the nobility of her care was, here's this therapy, here's this other therapy, here's this other therapy. I'm licensed in these. I'm familiar with this. I'm not so familiar with this. So I would need to be responsible to you and hand you off if you want this one. What do you want to do? And that was her approach with me. And it was the absolute best. And ironically, maybe appropriately, it did come through the VA before community care. But she was such an anomaly. Such an anomaly. So anyway,
there
Jake,
are good ones in the VA. I'm glad you found one.
Absolutely. Diamond in the rough for sure.
There are more than you give them credit, but you are gambling. I don't want to say it's like 1 in 10. It's I'd say maybe like half to 3/4 they can do good care, but boy, you're gambling. And when you get the bad ones, you're getting the bad ones.
And
really bad.
maybe to final point on that, it took a former Army medic turned nurse to bring me into his office after I was rating my pain on a scale of 1 to 10. And I was like, it's about a 3. And he interrupted the meeting with the doctor, brought me into his office, and he basically dressed me down and was just like, what's a 10? And I'm like, my buddies who died. What's a 9? Shrapnel, gunshot. What's an 8? TBI with concussion. What's a 7? Burns. What's a 6? Maybe a clean shot. What's a 5? Childbirth. What's a 4? Well, when I have so much pain, I pass out. Okay, so Paul, do you see
your 3
that
is a civilian
on
7.
on your 1 to 10, you've got this martyr scale reserved for the top 7. until you advocate for yourself, you can't get the care that you know that you're asking for because you're trying to make yourself a martyr in observance of your dead buddies or your wounded buddies. So if you're at an 8, you must say that it's an 8, and it's not a disgrace or disrespectful to anybody else's experience. It's your scale. So that was part of me having to learn how to navigate the VA system, was to quit trying to be a martyr for my dead buddies. And it took,
I'm glad you
it
got
took a
that
veteran
dressing
to
down.
dress me down. Yeah.
But like, I want to generalize your experience. Sorry, I know we're kind of stealing a lot of this conversation here, but like a lot of veterans, and I'm talking about like the really good natured, like our brothers and our sisters, the ones who we love, the ones who we really care about, they will minimize because they don't want service connected disability. They're like, oh, I don't want to take it out of the pocket of a more deserving veteran. And they need, and I want to shake them. I want to roll up a newspaper and say, it's not taking money out of the pocket of another veteran. If that is the cost of your military service, tell them what you went through and get compensated for your sacrifice, for your labor, for the cost of your service.
Right.
So
So
Ryan,
I'm glad he did
please
it.
use that
I'm
as a
glad you heard him.
soundbite for like a YouTube short, because that aspect of I don't want to take from somebody else. I can manage my thing. It delayed my care, and in some ways still
not a medal
continues
for
to
it.
delay or
No
slow
medal
my
for
care.
going through it alone.
No.
The people's therapist?
Yeah, no, I have learned that I despise being unrighteously controlled. Like, I'll get in line when it's time to get in line. But when it comes down to you are going to compel me because that's what you want to do and there's no reason, purpose for it, I will fight till both of us are dead and having a terrible time while we're doing it. Paul has seen this in my life. And so I have not been into the VA for a very, very long time, because when I go in, I usually have some Barbara looking 60-something-year-old woman talking down, being condescending, talking to me like I'm a moron, not knowing anything about me, anyway. And I just have to kind of go through the system and waste an entire day for no damn reason other than bureaucrats thought that was the thing that should be done. At least, yeah. And so I just refuse to go back. Right. So I pay out of pocket, or, I've got full coverage through the VA. I just don't use it because I can't. I lose.
It's not worth it.
I want to lose these people.
I'll use it for my back. I won't use it for my mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, shit. I went in for I was having severe ankle pain. I went in and had a bunch of X-rays. I think 6 months ago. I haven't heard shit about it. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea. And so it's like, okay, ibuprofen and whiskey, that helps. As Ryan taught me. But what would have to change? I can't imagine it. Like it's a difficult question for me to answer, because I don't think it's possible. Because the
advantage of the decentralization of the VAs to function as their own fishbowls is the other edge of the sword that prevents some sort of universal care that does work. Like, there's a necessary decentralization, but that also allows then these different VAs to prioritize and make into an agenda the different things to enhance their own career. That's what I saw in Montana to some degree. Absolutely Phoenix. And then Maryland was a travesty. It was a sad, this was Baltimore, which everything is pretty sad in Baltimore.
I really want to get. I'm feeling a little protective of the VA as much as it had. Like, there's a lot that it needs to do to get better, but like there are a lot of positive things that the VA offers. There are things that the VA does well, and I want to give them credit for that, including some of the employees. Like, some of them are not only veterans themselves; they're spouses of veterans, their children of veterans.
Absolutely.
They care, and maybe they're not going to be the providers or the clinicians that they're going to see, but they're going to be the support staff. They're going to be the cooks. They're going to be the clerks who check you in, and sometimes we'll carry in over our experience. Like, we're going to get a bad experience. Maybe we've had 7 bad experiences. We're going to go in and we're going to expect that bad experience. We might overlook that daughter of a veteran or a veteran themselves, that medic who's been around the block a few times and got it. Like, we might come in antagonistic and we might miss that. Even the brief episode of care, like the VA unfortunately does have an enormous wait list, and they do not pay for more therapists in some locations. And the longer the wait list is, the more compelled they are to do these brief therapy manuals. And it's
Yep.
heartbreaking at the end of it. It's not, hey, I think we did our best and we think we're cured. It's that you've actually progressed some, and somebody else who needs your hour is currently in rock bottom and we need to help them. So like,
Right.
this does
Triage.
afford us to help and give some people kind of a leg up and a push. Where they really fail is when you need more, when you need
Yeah.
beyond the Band-Aid, so to speak. And that is where we should continue to campaign. Do better. But I don't want to scare everybody off. The VA does do some things very well. They just have a lot of room for improvement.
And I'd say it comes in finding a vet that does know how to navigate the system. Their own personal feelings about navigating the system are less important. It's like, I know how to navigate this. I don't really like it, but I know how to navigate this. And to your point, my undergrad's in public policy and administration. I have no suggestions for how to revamp at a policy level the beast that is the VA. What I do know is this aspect of what we're doing here today, putting the word out, saying you need to find somebody that understands the system. It is, I love how you said it's a great starting point, and then understanding how you can get out to community care. I do think that is really great. And some of the greatest experiences I've had at the VA is over at the canteen with the people checking me out for my water and my salad. And yeah, they're great. They're
I
great.
miss the gumbo. Oh my gosh, they have
Yeah.
they have like gumbo soup. It was like $2.29. You'd think it was
They were
like
great.
crap, but
Yep.
really
It was
good for
great.
canteen food. Oh,
So maybe that would be what it takes me to get back to the VA, Ryan, is the gumbo special.
gosh. For the best VA I've ever visited and unfortunately did not get hired at was the Honolulu VA, which the veterans essentially move in to the lobby, and it's not uncommon to hear like the gentle sound of ukulele just like wafting through because someone's singing a verse of their military service, and
Yep.
beautiful.
That's cool.
That's cool. The joke is, if you've seen one VA, you've seen one VA. So Vietnam vets, they've been in and out of that system since the late 60s, early 70s. They've given up dozens of times, but the VA in the 60s was different from the VA in the 70s, and it was different from the VA in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
The VA in the 2030s is going to be even different. So like, it doesn't mean it's going to be better, but like, try. If you hate it, if it stinks, community care, veteran choice.
Reach out to a friend that does know how to do it. Like, the answer's out there. The perseverance that comes from our military service helps us on the back end.
Navigating the American healthcare system. Yeah. It's almost as hard as war.
Yes.
What are some closing thoughts that y'all have about veterans' mental health you think people need to know?
I think where Paul and I commiserate is reading a lot of old dusty books and documents, realizing that this experience is unique but not new. And there's a lot of dudes from a lot of parts of the world in history, from Asia to the Middle East to Europe, who well, hold on. What?
Let me go pull the dusty book off the shelf here.
Well, like I just ordered this the other day. A knight's own book of chivalry from like the 1300s, where Geoffroy de Charnay is I'm married to a French girl, so I have to learn this stuff. But anyway, he's talking what it's like to lead and what it's like to follow. but also he's talking about what it's like to live amongst people who have no idea what the hell you just went through and stay normal. Yeah, he actually
Yep.
talks about PTSD in the 1300s.
Right.
So just understand there's a huge amount of men and women that have gone through this and come out the other side on the hero's journey and been extremely successful both in family and life. And so it can
Yep.
be done and shall be done. We just right now in 2025, we really suck at the ritualization of bringing men and women back to normalcy.
Yep. I guess I'll show the veterans book that I have on my desk here, and it's all of the music of Jimi Hendrix. He was in the Army, the early days of Vietnam before he was removed for not fitting in too well.
LSD will do that to you, man.
Right? When he was at Woodstock, he had a buddy of his from boot camp who had just got out of Vietnam. And he's like, "Hey, Jimmy, what are you doing?" He's like, "I'm going up to New York to play this gig. Do you want to come?" And he's like, "Yeah, why not?"
Okay.
So imagine like that kind of a transition. You're going from Vietnam to Woodstock in about 2 weeks. No, I think if I think about what is the message for veterans to hear, it is to look to the wisdom of the ancients. Although not a veteran directly, Paul the Apostle, of whom I'm named after, had some military influence in his life. He was in the tribe of Benjamin, which was the militaristic tribe of the Jewish people. And his grandfather was either in the Roman army or directly associated with them. And that was what likely granted him citizenship. And he had some pretty aggressive, violent actions that he was responsible for. And if I look to him for guidance, it's that when I was younger, I did some things, I thought some things, I said some things that was reflective of when I was younger. And now that I'm older, I conduct myself in this direction. And he doesn't say I'm terrible for that. He doesn't say that I'm doomed to hell for that. He doesn't even say like I was an asshole. He does it completely without judgment. And he says, when I was younger, I did some stuff that reflects that time of my life. And now that I'm older, I put aside those ways. And I'm paraphrasing. So I'd say to the veterans out there, that past does not define you, and be careful how much you champion that as your identity today. A good Marine buddy of mine says, let it be the bedrock for you to build on. Don't let it be the unstable house from which you try to stand on top of.
Ooh, that's good.
For the general population, don't believe Hollywood. It's going to take a little bit to go find a veteran and then reflect that veteran's individual experience does not speak for all veterans. There are some generalities, this unity of purpose, this aspect of selfless service, that is probably somewhat more universal. But go find a veteran and actually have that conversation. And it doesn't have to start with "thank you for your service." It can just be, what did you learn? What do you miss? If we can bridge the gap, that can start to close the gap between, what is it now, less than 7% of America's population are veterans. So it might take some doing depending on where you are in America. It might take some effort to go find a veteran. But if you can do that, then we can really start to find our way forward as a country. Because we have to make sure we understand the story of those who are willing to fight to defend our sovereignty. No matter what kind of agenda might be in the administration or the Department of War or whatever, there is that warfighter who is willing to go do it. So if we can have that civilian and that veteran have a conversation, we can really make sure that we have a country for a few more generations. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, you're making me think of that George Washington quote. I'm going to butcher it, but it's like the future soldier the chance of someone signing up for the military is based off of how we treat the previous generation who
Mm,
joined the military. So yeah, Bridge, having those conversations is going to make people a little bit less fearful about what it was. I
yeah,
guess my
absolutely.
feedback is less about veterans. Veterans are in their lane. I would tell them there's no medal for going through it alone, but I'm a therapist and I want to continue to champion this idea of like reach out to your brothers, check on your homies, like that's what grows. But to civilians, you don't even have to have the conversation. I mean, some vets don't want to talk about it. They don't have to talk about it. Just make them feel welcome. If I lean towards the Vietnam era veterans, it's not thank you for your service, it's welcome home. Even after 50 years, some of them haven't heard it. And even for the newer guys, even for the OEF, OIF, OND vets, make them feel welcome, include them. If you know a vet, just invite them to what you're doing. If a vet's applying for a job, hire them. They're great employees. If you see an older guy with a Vietnam or a Korea, not a lot of World War II vets anymore, but if you see
Yeah.
a vet with a hat, buy their meal. I like going to Waffle House. It's a great place. A lot of Vietnam vets come in. They'll wear their hat. It'll say Vietnam veteran. They'll have maybe a vest or something. It's great. Just say, I'd like to pay for this guy's meal. You don't even
Done.
have to say anything on your way out. If you do say anything, welcome home, whatnot, but just make them feel welcome. Like you are included. You are a part of the community. You are welcome. That's the feedback I'd give them. Buy us a
Mm.
beer. We also like beer. If you see it at a bar, buy us a beer.
Thank you guys for a great conversation. If somebody's watching this and they want to learn more about veterans' mental health or they want to know of a charity that you recommend, where would you direct them?
Wounded Warrior is one that I like to put money into. There's a T-shirt company called Grunt Style or Grunt Style Foundation. Grunt Style does T-shirts for soldiers and veterans. It's just a military aesthetic, but they also have a foundation, Grunt Style Foundation. Donating to Grunt Style Foundation not only helps mental health, but it is money that goes towards food insecurity, travel, moving, rent, housing. It's a great program.
I'd say ditto.
I'll pitch since Alex wasn't able to stay on. I'll pitch his good guys bad thoughts. It was his.com. Kind of helping get veterans into this community stuff. You know, based on some of the things we've talked about, where sometimes when you're spiraling, it's difficult to know how to penetrate the system. And his proposal has been, well, what if you had an app where you're like, hey, it's falling apart, and they're able to say, plug you in to the things you need to, most freaky tick. And I personally
Yeah.
know him from 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines, and if anybody can get it done, it's him. But, you know, Paul, I think you deal with bigger fish in terms of the veteran outreach, veteran history than I do. So please proceed.
I would say Wounded Warrior Project is who I'm currently working with, especially being overseas, navigating the VA complex. I needed to have an advocate back stateside. And I think especially because they went through some learning curves a few years ago. They're in very good hands now. So I'd say that. And then Patrol Base Abate up in Montana is one that I've seen. I'd say just make sure you do your homework. There's a gal, I can't remember her full name, Elizabeth, on LinkedIn, who does a lot of good research, and she will absolutely you can look through the past history of her posts and see who's legitimate and illegitimate just off of their 501c3 filings.
Yeah,
And so
they compare it by like how many cents of every dollar actually goes towards the veteran, so you can see like a percentage. Yeah,
Yep,
pretty great.
yep. And she's done some great work in highlighting some of the travesties of some of these very popular names, very good marketing, terrible service to the veterans. So go with Wounded Warrior, go with Patrol Base Abate, and then do your homework and make sure that it is a worthy cause and you can look at the numbers and make an informed decision. I guess going back to the agency, make a good choice.